Hollywood spends millions creating iconic movie moments, then just loses the cars. Some ended up in junkyards, others were sitting in someone's barn under a tarp for decades. And a few, well, they had adventures that would make their movie plots look boring. Today we're diving into 10 of the most legendary movie cars that disappeared after filming Wrapped, only to resurface years, sometimes decades later, in the most unexpected places. Number 10. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Except, apparently, you do need proper storage facilities. Universal Studios built DeLoreans for the Back to the Future trilogy, and while most are accounted for, one particular hero car used for close-up interior shots went completely off the grid after filming Wrapped in 1990. For over 2 decades, nobody knew where it was. Fans speculated it had been scrapped. Some conspiracy theorists thought it actually traveled through time. The reality, way less exciting, but somehow more ridiculous. In 2011, a California restoration shop was contacted by a private collector who'd purchased what he thought was a regular DeLorean at an estate in the San Fernando Valley. The car was in rough shape, the flux capacitor mock-up was still partially attached, and the interior had the custom instrumentation from the film. The car was sold at auction in 2011 for approximately $500,000 through Profiles in History Auction House. To put that in perspective, that's about $675,000 in today's money, a 1,000x return on investment. Not bad for a car that couldn't even hit 88 miles per hour without modifications. Number 9. Before Tom Hardy grunted his way through the wasteland, Mel Gibson drove one of the most badass vehicles ever put on film, the Black Interceptor from the original Mad Max. This wasn't just any car. This was the car that launched a franchise and made muscle cars look post-apocalyptically cool. After filming Wrapped in 1979, the Falcon supposedly went to a Melbourne car museum and vanished sometime in the 1980s. In 2011, a Mad Max superfan named Bob Versenko was browsing cars.com. Yes, really, and noticed a suspicious-looking Falcon XB that had unique modifications. He did some detective work, cross-referenced VIN numbers with production records, and confirmed it. This was Max Rokitansky's ride. He purchased it for approximately 125,000 Australian dollars, which is roughly 95,000 US dollars. The car underwent a complete restoration and now appears at car shows worldwide. It's currently valued at over 2 million AUD, making it one of the most valuable Australian muscle cars in existence. Number 8. What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law, and apparently a complete lack of respect for proper vehicle documentation. Universal Pictures commissioned 4 identical Pontiac Trans Ams for Smokey and the Bandit, and they absolutely destroyed 3 of them during filming. Those jumps weren't CGI, folks. The surviving hero car, the one used for close-ups with Burt Reynolds, was supposed to go to Universal's archives. Instead, it disappeared faster than the Bandit running from Buford T. Justice. For nearly 30 years, the car's whereabouts were unknown. Then in 2016, a Florida man named Kevin Williams contacted a Trans Am restoration specialist about a car he'd inherited from his late father, a former Universal Pictures transportation coordinator. The vehicle had been sitting in a Tampa storage unit since 1978. Williams had no idea what he had. He just knew his dad said, "Don't sell this car." After verification through original production documents and build sheets, the car was authenticated as the hero car. It still had the original paint scheme, though faded, and the interior signatures from cast members including Reynolds and Sally Field. The car was restored and sold at Barrett-Jackson auction in 2016 for $450,000, equivalent to roughly $560,000 today. Number 7. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass. But apparently nobody bothered to keep track of where they parked Ecto-1. The original Ecto-mobile from the 1984 Ghostbusters wasn't some Hollywood fabrication. It was a real 1959 Cadillac professional chassis ambulance that the production team purchased for $4,800 and modified with roughly $30,000 worth of equipment and custom bodywork. That $4,800 would be about $14,500 today, and the total investment would be around $120,000 in current dollars. After filming concluded and promotional tours ended in 1985, Ecto-1 was supposedly returned to Columbia Pictures' prop warehouse. Except it wasn't. Someone had borrowed it for a promotional event and never returned it. For over a decade, the most famous paranormal investigation vehicle in cinema history was just gone. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Remember, we need you to stick around to find out exactly where it turned up, because the location is absolutely bonkers. In 1997, a video rental store owner in Los Angeles, yes, when those still existed, contacted Sony Pictures claiming he'd purchased Ecto-1 at a studio surplus auction in 1986 for $500. Sony authenticated the vehicle through original build documentation and distinctive welding marks on the custom roof equipment. They purchased it back for approximately $50,000 and fully restored it. The car is now valued at over $1.5 million and is displayed at Sony Pictures Studios. Bill Murray was worth roughly $180 million as of 2025, but even he probably can't afford to buy this thing now. Number 6. Alright, buckle up for this one, because we're talking about what might be the most legendary car chase in cinema history. Steve McQueen, a Highland Green Mustang, and the villain's murdered out 1968 Dodge Charger RT, which spent decades in Hollywood's equivalent of witness protection. 2 Chargers were used in Bullitt's famous chase through San Francisco. After filming wrapped in 1968, both cars were essentially written off. They'd been beaten to hell during those brutal stunt sequences. One was supposedly scrapped. The other, it disappeared completely. For decades, muscle car enthusiasts and movie memorabilia collectors searched for any trace of these vehicles. In 2002, a classic car restoration shop in Tennessee received a call from a man claiming he had an old Charger from some movie. The owner had purchased it at a salvage auction in 1970 for $500, roughly $3,800 today, and had driven it as his daily driver for years before retiring it to the barn. Authentication was confirmed through matching VIN plates, distinctive chassis modifications for camera mounting, and reinforced suspension components. The Warner Brothers prop department verified it as one of the hero Chargers used for close-up shots. After restoration, the car was sold at Mecum Auctions in 2015 for approximately $330,000. Steve McQueen, who did his own driving in Bullitt, was worth about $30 million when he died in 1980. That's roughly $112 million in today's dollars. The cars from his most iconic film, they're now worth a combined total that rivals his entire estate value. Hey, before we get to the Bullitt Mustang story, which is absolutely insane, if you're enjoying these wild Hollywood lost and found stories, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Now, back to the cars. Number 5. You work your side of the street and I'll work mine. Well, the Bullitt Mustang worked its way completely off the street and into automotive legend. 2 identical Highland Green 1968 Mustang GT 390 fastbacks were built for Bullitt. One was used for the jumps and rough stuff. It was destroyed during filming. The other, the hero car used for close-ups and dialogue scenes, survived. After filming, it was sold to a Warner Brothers employee, then passed through 2 more owners before being purchased in 1974 by Robert Kiernan in New Jersey for $6,000, approximately $37,000 today. Here's where the story gets incredible. Steve McQueen himself personally contacted Kiernan in 1977, asking to buy the car back. McQueen offered him essentially a blank check. Kiernan said no. The king of cool, the most famous car enthusiast in Hollywood, was denied. Kiernan drove the Mustang as his daily driver until it became too unreliable in the early 1980s, then parked it in his garage where it sat untouched for over 35 years. The car became Hollywood's holy grail. Rumors circulated constantly. Some said it had been crushed, others claimed it was in Europe. In reality, it was sitting in a Kentucky barn. Kiernan had moved, collecting dust while the legend grew. Sean Kiernan, Robert's son, inherited the car after his father's death in 2014 and decided to finally reveal it to the world in 2018 at the Detroit Auto Show. Number 4. James Bond has driven some incredible machines over the decades, but the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me and the BMW M1 from For Your Eyes Only hold special places in automotive history. In 2019, a British car enthusiast contacted BMW Classic about authenticating an M1 he'd purchased at an estate sale in Scotland. The car had been stored in a garage since the mid-1980s and had extremely low mileage, only about 8,000 kilometers or roughly 5,000 miles. BMW Classic examined the vehicle and discovered unique features: reinforced chassis sections, additional electrical conduits for camera equipment, and most tellingly, a production code matching Eon Productions' 1981 rental agreement. This was the Hero M1 from For Your Eyes Only, purchased by a Scottish businessman from a London film equipment rental company in 1982 for £12,000. That's roughly $25,000 then, about $80,000 today. He'd driven it sparingly for a few years, then garaged it, completely unaware of its cinematic pedigree. His estate sold it for £35,000 in 2019, but after authentication it was resold at RM Sotheby's in 2021 for approximately £875,000. That's roughly $1.2 million. Only 453 BMW M1s were ever produced between 1978 and 1981, making them exceptionally rare. A Bond connection that's priceless. Number 3. It is his love. It is his passion. It is his fault he didn't lock the garage. One of cinema's most expensive pranks involved what appeared to be a priceless Ferrari, and the real car story is almost as chaotic as the movie itself. Here's the thing most people don't know. The Ferrari destroyed in Ferris Bueller's Day Off wasn't actually a real 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider, a car worth about $350,000 in 1986, over $1 million today. The production used 3 fiberglass replicas built on a Mustang chassis. But there was a real Ferrari on set, used only for close-up interior shots and a few establishing shots where you couldn't tell it wasn't genuine. This actual Ferrari, loaned to Paramount Pictures by a private collector, was supposed to be returned after filming in 1986. Instead, it somehow ended up purchased by a transportation coordinator who claimed he'd bought it surplus. For over 20 years, this genuine 250 GT California, one of only 56 ever made, was sitting in a Los Angeles garage while its owner had no idea of its true value. In 2009, the owner's son, helping clean out the garage, posted pictures online asking for help identifying the car. Ferrari enthusiasts immediately recognized it from its unique characteristics. Authentication confirmed it was the actual hero car from the film, with a current value exceeding $18 million, making it one of the most valuable movie cars ever to actually appear on screen. Number 2. The Lotus Esprit submarine car from The Spy Who Loved Me is arguably the most famous Bond vehicle ever created.
Can you swim?
Even more iconic than the DB5, 7 Esprits were modified for the film, some for water work, some for land. The primary wet submarine car, nicknamed Wet Nellie by the crew, was thought to have been destroyed after filming wrapped in 1977. For decades, everyone, including Lotus, Eon Productions, and Bond historians, believed Wet Nellie was gone. Then in 1989, something absolutely absurd happened. A storage unit in Long Island, New York, was sold at a blind auction for non-payment of fees. The winning bidder paid roughly $100 for the contents of the unit without knowing what was inside. When they opened it, they found a White Lotus Esprit covered in rust and marine growth. The buyer had no idea what they'd purchased. They tried researching it, but couldn't figure out why a Lotus would have fins, torpedoes, and periscopes. Eventually, someone suggested contacting Ian Fleming Productions. Authentication revealed that this was the submarine car, the primary hero vehicle from one of the most famous action sequences in film history. The car passed through several private owners before being auctioned at RM Sotheby's London in 2013, where it sold for £550,000. That's approximately $865,000 then, roughly $1.1 million today. The buyer, Elon Musk, who stated he wanted to convert it into a functioning submarine car, because of course he did. Number 1. Wait a minute, didn't we already talk about the Mad Max Interceptor? Yes, but that was the standard Falcon. This is the real Holy Grail, the actual Pursuit Special with the Concorde front end and supercharger, Max's personal ride from the Road Warrior. The Pursuit Special was custom built from a 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT Coupe with a massive supercharger protruding through the hood, which hilariously wasn't even functional during filming. Pure aesthetics and absolutely glorious. After the Road Warrior wrapped in 1981, the car was supposedly shipped to a Melbourne museum. It never arrived. For 30 years, this was the white whale of movie car collecting. In 2010, Mad Max fanatics cross-referenced every Ford Falcon XB registered in Australia. One stood out, a Falcon in rural South Australia marked non-operational since 1985. What they found was heartbreaking and exhilarating. The Pursuit Special was completely disassembled in a barn. After authentication, the restored car was sold at Lloyd's auctions in 2015 for 2.1 million AUD. That's roughly 1.5 million USD, making it the most valuable Australian car ever sold at that time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive cinema history, make sure you've subscribed because we've got plenty more Hollywood mysteries coming your way. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which car surprised you the most.